Last week, you had names like Brother Bo Nix, Devonta Smith, Christian McCaffrey, Quinshon Judkins, Aronde Gadsden, the rookie. Those guys went off in fantasy football and they helped you win your week. Well, in today's video, I'm talking about 10 players that will do the same in week number 8, as well as some desperation flexes for everybody who's going through bipocalypse and all the injuries. The first player I think is going to have a massive day this week. That is Mr. Durka Derrick Henry himself against the Chicago Bears. A couple things that we need to note here. Number one, this is in Baltimore. So whether Lamar Jackson plays or not, I don't care. I think Derrick Henry is going to have a great game. Clearly, his upside is better if Lamar is out there, and it's trending in the direction where we should see Lamar Jackson. I have him ranked as my RB9 this week. The Bears are the 8th best matchup for your fantasy running back. This year, they gave up the 5th most rushing yards per game, the 8th most total yards per game, and the 8th most points allowed to opposing offenses. David Montgomery had one of his better games. Javonte Williams had a decent game. Ashton Jeanty had his best game ever as a pro. Now, to be fair, since all those games happened for those guys, this defense after the bye has been much better. But I just believe we're going to see Derrick Henry and these Ravens with a certain desperation. And this is tied for the highest over-under of the week at 50.5 points. The Ravens are the third. They have the third highest implied team point total on the week as well. So I'm projecting at least 15 touches and 100 all-purpose yards for Mr. Durka Derrick Henry. Okay, look. Ladies and gentlemen, the curse has been broken. The hot take of the week curse has been broken. Last week, our hot take was that Davante Adams was going to be a top 6 finish in fantasy football for wide receivers. Finally, we've broken the curse. Let's keep the hot streak hot. Both, not one, but both, Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton are going to dominate the Cowboys secondary. I'm saying top 6 finish, not just for Bo Nix, but top 6 finish for Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton, ladies and gentlemen. The Dallas Cowboys, the best matchup for both your quarterback and your wide receiver in fantasy football this year. Got Bo ranked as my quarterback 5, got Nix ranked as my wide receiver 6. The Cowboys defense this year gives up the most passing yards per game, the most total yards allowed per game, the 3rd most points allowed to opposing offenses. Malik Neighbors had his best day before he went down. Rome Odunze got into the end zone. Romeo Doubs had 3 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson had 19 fantasy points. Tetairoa McMillan, his best game as a professional for fantasy football. This game is also tied for the highest over-under of the week with the previous matchup, the Bears and the Ravens. So we should see a ton of fantasy points in this matchup here. And the best news for the Broncos, they have the 4th highest implied team point total of the week. So we should see a ton of fantasy points for both sides. And when you look at Cowboys defenses, specifically against the quarterback position, Russell Wilson, who is no longer a starter, who wouldn't start on any team in the NFL at this point, had 473 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Caleb Williams had a 4 touchdown day. Jordan Love had 3 tuds. Justin Fields had 26 fantasy points. Man, if Bo Nix and the Broncos are down in this game, you better be careful. Bo Nix, when trailing this season, 76% adjusted completion rate, over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a passer rating of over 101. Obviously, last week, he made history. In fact, he became the first player in NFL history with 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns in the 4th quarter of a game ever all time for over the 100 years that we've ever seen the NFL. So I think both these guys are primed to have a great week. Obviously, anything can happen, but they've got to go out and do it, and they have every opportunity to go out and do it at home. Both Nix and Sutton top 6 finishes. Okay, let's go to my 4th player this week. That is Mr. Breece Hall. Breece Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, is it redemption season? Is it bounce back week? We talked about a Durka Derrick Henry bounce back. Now a bounce back for Breece Hall. The Bengals are the best matchup for your fantasy running back. They give up the 6th most rushing yards per game, the 2nd most total yards allowed, and they give up the 2nd most points allowed to opposing offenses, over 30 points per game allowed. Jordan Mason had his best day as a Viking against them, 7 yards per carry, 23 fantasy points. RJ Harvey had his best day in fantasy. Josh Jacobs, 2 touchdowns. Jaylen Warren, over 7.8 yards per carry. I mean, almost 8 yards per carry, right? So I think you should ask yourself, if the Jets are truly looking to trade Breece Hall, which every indication has said that they are sellers at the deadline, if they're truly looking to trade him, Would this not be the matchup of all matchups to feature Breece Hall? Honestly, I don't care if Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor is playing. This has got to be the matchup where you feature a Breece Hall. So I think he goes off. I'm projecting 18 touches and a top 15 finish. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but there's a free feature on the Flock Fantasy site called the My Teams feature where you can see expert consensus opinion on your league and your fantasy team. If you want to get that feature for free, then go to the Flock Fantasy site and create a free account, but make sure you use the promo code LAND, LAND, so you can access that feature. You can actually check out that pinned comment down below. It'll direct you towards the site, but it's just one of those free, kind of like secret weapons that you have in fantasy football this year that not a lot of people know about. So check that out. Look, for this next guy, there's no way around it. Rome Odunze has been awful for fantasy football since the bye week. From weeks 1 to 4, averaging over 17 points per game. From weeks 6 to 7, averaging 4.1 fantasy points per game. Also, his first read target share has gone down since the bye week as well. But like we said with Derrick Henry, like we said with Breece Hall, it's bounce back week, baby. And it's bounce back week for Rome Odunze. He plays the Baltimore Ravens. That is the 4th best matchup for your fantasy wide receiver. The Ravens give up the 5th most passing yards per game, the 3rd most total yards per game, and no defense in the NFL is giving up more points to opposing offenses. 32 points per game is what the Baltimore Ravens give up on a weekly basis. Keon Coleman's only good fantasy day this year came against the Baltimore Ravens. Amon-Ra did his thing. Xavier Worthy got into the end zone. This is also tied for the highest over-under of the week, like we mentioned with the Derrick Henry take. So there should be a lot of fantasy points to spread around. I believe Rome Odunze gets back on track this week. We're saying 6 catches, 100 yards. That's our projection for week number 8. Okay, let's go to the Kool-Aid Man himself, Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo faces the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are the 9th best matchup for your running back. I know that might be surprising. I mean, it's surprising to me. This defense we all would say is a good defense, but they've been getting beat on the ground by running backs this year. For example, Javonte had 20 points. Kyron had 19. Bucky had 25.5. Even Cam Skattebo just 2 weeks ago against these guys had 3 touchdowns. I mean, Skattebo has been so impressive in the last 5 weeks. He's had 90 scrimmage yards in each of his games or more, right? You can actually see here from Big Blue Film Room, which is obviously a Giants fan account, but they mentioned that Cam Skattebo is PFF's 5th highest grade rookie on the year. He's also a top 5 overall graded player running back in the entire league, right? From PFF. Let's talk about Tyrone Tracy. So you can see Cam Skattebo, his designed rushing share has dropped each of the last 4 weeks because obviously Tyrone Tracy is getting healthier. But still, we have a utilization rate for Cam Skattebo along the names of the Devon Achans, the Josh Jacobs, the Jonathan Taylors. This guy is elite. They're using him like he's elite. He's getting so many targets in the air, so much work on the ground. I'm projecting 18 touches and 100 plus all-purpose yards. Okay, let's jump into our next player, Chris Olave. Where are my Chris Olave guys at? Because we've been waiting for this talent to show up for fantasy football. That's finally happening this year. I don't care if it's a PPR scam. It's finally happening. He goes up against the Bucks. The Bucks are the 11th best matchup for your receiver. Nico Collins had a good day against them. Garrett Wilson had over 24 points. Kendrick Bourne had 142 receiving yards against this secondary. Chris Olave this year, 2nd in targets, 47 catchable targets. So 47 of his targets were deemed catchable. First off, that number is crazy. But he has 44 receptions. Very impressive. I'm projecting 10 targets and a top 12 finish in week number 8. Okay, we've gone to the section of the video where I want to help people who are in a desperate position. If you're dealing with bipocalypse and injuries, here are 4 flexes that you can start this week. Starting off with tight ends, if you're desperate at the tight end spot, Mason Taylor. He plays the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are the best matchup for your fantasy tight ends. They give up the 3rd most passing yards per game. We've talked about how bad their defense is already in this video. But plenty of tight ends have had their best day against the Bengals. Sam Laporta, 5 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown. Great day for him. Tucker Kraft got into the end zone. Pat Fryermuth last week, it was a broken play, but 28 fantasy points, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. The good news for Mason Taylor, and it might sound counterproductive, but the Jets are huge underdogs, which means that for the majority of this game, they're going to need to throw the ball. Whether Garrett Wilson plays or not, Mason Taylor should be important to that. I kind of hope that we see Tyrod Taylor, but either way, I think we've got a potential top 12 finish for Mason Taylor this week. Okay, Two running backs that you can start from the same team, Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. They're really moving into that Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery discount version of that, range in fantasy football. Buffalo is the 6th best matchup for your fantasy running back. Both of these guys should be integral to the Panthers offense each and every week. Hayden Winks showed us visually what the rotation looked like last week. And essentially it was like, you get a drive Chuba Hubbard, you get a drive Rico Dowdle, and they basically just completely swapped each and every drive. Here's the thing with the Buffalo Bills though. You want to attack this defense on the ground. They give up the 2nd most rushing yards per game, and they give up the 2nd fewest passing yards per game. So this is a team that already loves to establish the run. They're very run heavy. And this is a defense that you want to attack in that fashion. I think both of these guys, I can't tell you what they're going to do. It's desperation flex season, but they're both going to touch the ball at least 15 times in my opinion. So what I've done with my DFS lineup this week is taken most of the names from today's video and created a lineup. For example, Courtland Sutton's our top player. We're giving him 2 times the points. We want to hit big on a Sutton-Dallas matchup. Derrick Henry, we're betting on the bounce back. Cam Scatterboo in Philadelphia. Breece Hall against that weak Cincinnati Bengals rush defense. Rome Odunze with the bounce back. And we got a little chalky with Emeka Egbuka there as well. You can create your own lineup. All you got to do is download the FastDraft app. Use my promo code LAND. I'll match your deposit up to $50. And then you're going to get my week 8 rankings completely free. You can check that out in the pinned comment if you want to have some fun this week. Okay, my last desperation flex, and I'm starting this guy in the Flock League. That is Woody Marks. This year, we've seen plenty of running backs have a great day against the Niners. Travis Etienne had 6.5 yards per carry, over 125 yards, 19 fantasy points. Kyron Williams had his best day this year against them. Rachaad White was very serviceable. And look, Woody Marks, he's kind of become like a meme on my channel simply because I do like Woody Marks, but more because my entire comic section completely roasted me after what happened in week 5, right? There were so many trolls out there. And look, like I get it. Week 5 was disappointing. I was disappointed too. In week 5 versus the Baltimore Ravens, they completely beat the brakes off the Ravens. Nick Chubb got the touchdown. It was disappointing, but still, you could have seen in that game that at that time, even with Nick Chubb scoring a touchdown, Woody Marks was still the favored running back. He had more snaps than Nick Chubb. He was utilized in a way where in a game script where the Texans are down, you would have seen how good he would have been, right? But that's what I've been consistently saying with Woody Marks. When the Texans are down in games, they will rely on Woody. He's the best weapon they have out of the backfield, and he's the best satellite back they have, point blank period. You just cannot be targeting Nick Chubb out of the backfield. And in week 7, a game where the Texans were down, we finally saw that come to fruition, right? Shout out to Michael Florio. You can see Woody Marks had 61% of the snaps, 10 carries, 20 routes run, 5 targets, got into the end zone. Yes, the offensive line was completely average. The offensive line was awful, but still, he is the preferred running back. And at this point, you can't be, beggars can't be choosers with By-Mageddon happening. But I'm projecting 15 touches and at least 5 of those touches to be targets. Targets are way more valuable than carries. So that's why I think you can put them into your lineup. Guys, I appreciate you watching the video. Do me a favor, hit the like button to show some love. Subscribe if you like the content. And why don't you comment down below and let me know a player that you have a lot of confidence in this week as well. Draft with me every night this week on the FastDraft app where there are thousands of dollars to be won weekly. Getting started is easy. Download the FastDraft app, use the promo code LAND at sign up to get your deposit match up to $50. That's up to 10 free entries on us. And when you finish your first DFS contest, I'll send you my weekly rankings completely free. Check out the link in the pinned comment to start drafting today.